What do you think about what I've said? What do you think you'll do about this?
I think we're going vegan. Now.
We're already, okay.
Like now.
We're going vegan now.
Would you say that the basis of animal exploitation is wrong? Yeah? You too? Yeah? Okay. So what do you think that you two individuals can do about it?
We're actually already planning a lifestyle change to veganism.
That's why we're here, baby. What caused you to think about that?
My fiance has a really strict diet, and just it seems like healthier products, less meat, and things of that nature would benefit her going forward. And
Health-wise?
Yeah, health-wise.
Okay.
As far as me, I've been exploring it myself because I don't want to put any pressure on her. So I'm looking into what the benefits of taking out meat and looking at supplements and things of that nature instead.
Right.
And it's just not something I can do immediately because I don't have the money to back it up. But it's something that we definitely talked about on numerous occasions. Like, it's not something that I'm against doing. I totally understand why people do it and make the change, whether it's for health reasons or because of reasons like this, and it's powerful.
Right, so we're here to talk about the ethical reasons. So are you open to having that discussion for a moment?
Sure.
Yeah? And with the health stuff, I can maybe help you. And I actually came at this initially from that angle, and then I realized that what was actually more pertinent was the injustice that was afoot, and that it does in fact impact so many areas, not just your health, but the environment and also human rights issues. And I'll get into that for a moment, but I want to drive home the ethical principle. I just want to ask quickly though, are you convinced currently that you can be healthy on a plant-based diet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know that it's not necessary to consume animal products at all, right? Okay, at least we've got that covered. So the thing is with this, we're enslaving, torturing, and killing 3 trillion animals, and that's a conservative number, every year, okay? Now, that's trillion with a T. There's 1,000 billion in 1 trillion. And there's 7 billion human beings on the planet right now, as you know. That means that in just one day, there's more violence and bloodshed that we inflict on non-human animals who have done nothing wrong to us, by the way, than in all of the wars that have ever been carried out in human history against fellow human beings. No one's saying as a vegan activist that we shouldn't care about human rights issues. Obviously we should, and actually there's human rights issues afoot here. When you look at how much injustice we are inflicting on non-human animals, groups of beings who have been here before humans and will hopefully be here after humans, it really is something that takes your breath away. And how do you think we could possibly justify it?
You don't need it. You don't need to do it anymore. There's ways around it.
Right. And the number one benefit for you being vegan, do you know what that is? Obviously for them, and this is what it's about them, they no longer have to be exploited by you two individuals at least, which actually impacts their lives to the rate of 1,000 animals per year. You will spare the lives of 1,000 animals in just 1 year of being vegan. And that includes not just the food animals, but we're talking about the animals we use for clothing, the animals we use for testing. You won't go to zoos anymore because you'll see it as a prison for what it truly is, and etc. So you spare the lives of around 1,000 animals a year as a vegan. You no longer have to have this weighing on your conscience. If you truly connect to the injustice and you understand what we're doing to them, the good thing is you can walk away from this. And when have you ever been offered the opportunity to walk away from a massacre you're involved in? From violence that you're involved in, right? And we don't have to think that they have the same level of consciousness as us. That's not even important. We only have to ask ourselves, do they have the capacity to suffer like us? And we know that that's true. Do we agree or disagree there?
No, we agree.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
So if they have that capacity to suffer, then they have the capacity to also have feelings of joy and happiness, all the positive emotions that we share. And that's how they want to live their lives out, truthfully. Avoid pain and suffering and go towards pleasure, right? That's how all animals operate. So we're here, as I said, as an ethical position, because once you get that right and you connect to that, everything else falls into place beautifully, believe me. I initially was trying to get onto the health aspect of this and doing this from a nutritional point of view, and I never stuck to it. I would always make exceptions for a little bit of fish, a little bit of dairy. You can actually justify that health-wise, because you eat clean for 2 weeks and you'll get over it, right? But morally, how do we justify it? Can you justify a little bit of racism?
No.
A little bit of sexism? A little bit of child abuse?
I don't know.
Then why is animal abuse okay? We can't make concessions on that, can we? Right? And all use is abuse, by the way. There's no kind way to kill an animal and turn them into a sandwich. That humane lie that we've all been fed is exactly that, a lie. There's no such way to take an animal's life from them who wants to live in a nice way. And also, let me just tie in the human rights stuff real quick. As a society, we don't even talk about this, but people in slaughterhouses, and yes, I do side with the victims, the true victims of the animals in those slaughterhouses. Humans choose to be there and work, usually migrants, and they put those people in the slaughterhouses to do the dirty work. And those people have the highest rates of mental health issues. In fact, they have a higher rate of alcoholism and drug addiction than the military does, and nobody talks about it. People know that people in the military have those issues. That's a discussion we're having. When it comes to this, nobody talks about that.
Never heard that before.
When you work in a slaughterhouse, they have programs, PTSD programs, but they're subpar at best at addressing the mental health issues that people are suffering in those slaughterhouses. And if you have any PTSD as a result of working in a slaughterhouse, and you tell one of your fellow workers in a slaughterhouse, they'll just call you a bitch. That's what it's like. Toughen up, mate. That's what they'll say. I like to say this: you don't even have to like animals to know that they at least deserve their rights to liberty, to bodily integrity. Your likability shouldn't dictate your rights. If someone doesn't like you, that doesn't give them the right to take your rights away from you, right?
Yeah, that damn sure doesn't.
Right? So same thing with animals. And believe me, to this day, I still don't want some animals near me. But I'm not going to advocate for them to be harmed on my behalf. That doesn't make any sense. Same with humans. Some I despise, but I'm not going to murder them. I'm not going to enslave them and torture them. Right? That's not morally correct, unless it was self-defense or whatever. But you get my point, right? So that's the ethical element that I've just tied in there with the human rights stuff as well, that this is also affecting humans in a great way. I also didn't talk about how what they're doing with the feces and the blood is sometimes they'll spray it with these sprinklers into the air, and it affects neighborhoods nearby. They have to close their windows and their doors because they get sick. They get respiratory issues. And usually, again, these are the people that are living on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, so they're picking on the weak, the vulnerable. They don't just stop at animals. They don't just pick on the weak and the vulnerable in that situation, but they also pick on human beings who are in the lower socioeconomic regions and have all those sprinklers spraying out the blood that comes from those cesspools that they have in those facilities because they don't know where to put it. They spray it into the air. And they complain about getting sick. They have to stay in their houses in order to deal with this. And the crazy thing about this is it is so simple to address. All you really have to do is be vegan, and that means that it's just a non-action. Have you heard the expression, no evil will last forever?
Yes.
Would you say this is evil? Yeah? All good will outweigh the bad eventually. Just like slavery was a normal and legal thing in this country. Can you believe that shit? Now we look back like, I can't believe we ever engaged in that, right? That was not even long ago. Back then, we were thinking, oh, how are we going to stop this? It's normal, it's legal. And everybody's saying, we've always done this, it's convenient. It's similar excuses, kind of, to why we continue to do this injustice. And the question then becomes, which side of history do you want to stand on? When you knew better, did you do better? Or were you apathetic and dragged your feet when it mattered? And then number 2 benefit for you is your health. If you eat mindfully, and I just want to say that it is conditional. Being vegan is not healthy by default. Eating mindfully as a vegan is a whole foods, plant-based diet. Whole foods, not processed foods. You can easily get all your nutrition. You mentioned it being more expensive, my man. It's actually the opposite. Think about it. The most impoverished nations around the world, they eat simple foods, staple foods like grains, rice, beans, legumes in general, bananas, right? These are the cheapest foods on the planet. Of course, with vegan food, just like non-vegan food, there is more expensive options. Like a box of blueberries is going to be more expensive than a banana, or a whole kilo of bananas for that matter. You get expensive vegan restaurants, the not so expensive ones. If you shop for yourself, if you like to go to Whole Foods or wherever and get your own groceries and cook at home, you can easily eat a vegan diet for at least the same amount of money you're spending right now. I guarantee you that. So cost-wise, it's easy as to fix. Health-wise, you know that this is going to be better for you if you apply it mindfully. But more importantly is ethically. How can we justify not doing this? And then the beautiful part about this is that you'll realize very soon enough, hopefully, that being vegan is not about changing anything about who you are right now. Because you were saying earlier, and I do understand how you feel when you say this, it's perhaps a big change to make, right? And I understand how you feel because I felt similarly when I was in your position initially when I first started looking into this. I thought about the stuff I might be giving up and I don't want to give it up just yet. I'll take baby steps. But what I found is that baby steps are for babies, right? We're adults. And once you know better, you ought to do better. This is bullying at its finest, like I was saying before. So what gives us the right to pay other people to do the dirty work on our behalf and bully these animals in our name? All for a sandwich. We stab animals to death for a sandwich. I mean, we can easily just choose something else. You both shared with me tonight that you're both against animal exploitation, and I do believe you. I can tell by your facial expressions that you do care about this issue. This is an injustice for you as much as it is for me. The only difference is that your actions currently suggest otherwise. They suggest that you're not necessarily opposed to this. Your actions define you as a human being, I'm sure you're aware. And so the good news is that when you align your actions with the values that you have, you're reverting back to who you are. You're not changing who you are at all. You're just stopping doing something that you should have stopped a long time ago. You stopped doing something you were programmed into doing by society's lies, and by our parents who didn't know better, and by doctors who are trained by a system that is corrupt. And so we can think for ourselves today and actually live on purpose, do things we agree with in society, support the things that we want in this world, and vote for a world we believe in with our dollar by paying for plant-based products and supporting those industries that are vegan, that make the delicious vegan products we like taste similar to the non-vegan products we used to like, but they get better in quality and lower in price the more we support them. What do you think about what I've said? What do you think you'll do about this?
I think we're going vegan. Now.
We're already, okay.
Like now.
We're going vegan now.
It's like I knew these things happened, but it's just, I put it in the back of my head because I don't like sad stuff. I don't like seeing people suffer or animals.
I get that.
The thing about people being in factories and PTSD, and you can't grieve, you can't feel that. You have to turn yourself off emotionally in order to work.
They show up to work high and drunk usually. Yeah, you have to block that out somehow, and then it will corrode your moral system. Just like speciesism will corrupt your moral system if you allow it in your moral system for any longer. Speciesism is the first form of discrimination we're taught as human beings. Because we grow up, our parents tell us, eat chickens, eat cows, eat fish, eat turkeys, but dogs, make sure they're taken care of. If anyone harms them, they're an asshole. Cats, same deal, chipmunks, dolphins, certain animals we care about, right? But then other animals, fuck them, throw them through a slaughterhouse, take their heads off. And then that corrupts us. We grow up confused thinking that some form of discrimination like that is okay. So then we think, oh, I guess discrimination within our own species is allowed as well. But we're trying to root that out, but we're doing it from the top down. Why don't we start from the root? If we can learn to respect the rights of a chicken, even an oyster, and say, you know what, they have the capacity to suffer, so I'm gonna make a choice not to put them through that for me if I can avoid it. When you can learn to respect their lives in that way, you can learn to respect other groups of human beings of different color, of different sexual preference. It's gonna be a lot easier for us to accept that and to be open to that when we have cleaned up our moral system in that way. Does that make sense? If you really want to expose yourself to the true extent of how we exploit animals around the world, which animals we do it to, and just how evil we really are to these innocent beings, it's the toughest thing you'll ever watch, but my God, will it open your eyes. And it will tie in a sense of conviction that will change the course of your life for the better in some way, I promise you that. You usually try to avoid watching this because it makes you sad, and I get that. And that begs the question, if it's not good enough for our eyes, why is it good enough for our stomachs? I'd also just like to say, you are welcome to join us and volunteer with us should you want to speak up in this style. Do you live in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, we set up in New York in different boroughs as well. All right, it's been a pleasure talking to you both.
Thank you so much.
All right, let me shake your hand. Take care.